extreme are intentional wrongs. Now, when there are intentional wrongs, the example for this could be Ravana. It is generally in circumstantial wrongs. In the circumstance, the person is overcome by some urge, by some emotion, and they succumb to that. But when it's intentional, it involves a significant amount of thought, planning. There is a conspiracy over there. It was not that, say, when Ravan was just passing through the forest and he saw Sita and he pounced on her. No, he tried to do that earlier with Vedavati and he did that with Rambha. That is also his done. But when he made a whole scheme, first he told Maricha, you go there and then you sidetrack Ram first and then you sidetrack Ravan also, Lakshman also, and then I'll go and abduct. So this is not just a rush of blood. So in one sense you could say circumstantial wrongdoing is often hot-headed. A person just comes under a rush of blood and they do it. Intentional wrongdoing is often cold-blooded. Cold-blooded means that person is calculative, manipulative. They very well know what they are doing. And when somebody does some wrong like this, do you think there's any regret over there? Say when Duryodhan tried to poison Bhima, or he tried to burn the Pandavas in Varnavata, did he have any regrets? Yeah, he had. He regretted that his plan was not successful. So the regret is basically that, not that I did something wrong, but that if I did something wrong, it didn't work out as well as I expected. So that kind of regret does not lead to any reform. So if there is no internal regret, there is no reform. And even if there seems to be some temporary reform, because there is no change of heart, that reform is just a show to earn people's trust or to get people to lower their guard. And for such people, they have to be, punishment is required. Or at the very least, some level of disciplining is required. We'll come back to this a little later. The corrective actions we'll discuss a little bit more. But that's why we will see Ravan had to be punished. Lord Ram gave him many chances. They got many warnings from different people that don't do this, that return Sita. But not once did he listen. In fact, if we look at the Ramayana, he got 10 distinct warnings from 10 different people, right? Starting from Hanuman to Vibhishan to Malyavan to Sumali. Even Kumbhakarna told him. Indrajit told him. Many people told him. You could say he got one warning for each of his heads. But unfortunately, he had 10 heads and 0 brains. So he just didn't accept it at all. So for such people, there is nothing that can be done. They need to be punished. So now when the intentional wrongdoing is there, at that point, the common thing that happens is that the person persists. It becomes a repeated pattern. As they say, cheat me once, shame on you. Cheat me twice, shame on me. So if forgiveness is a very good virtue, forgiveness is definitely a virtue. But there is people who succumb to circumstantial wrongdoing. You could say here, such people are characterized by weakness. They are too weak when the circumstances and temptations come up. But people who perpetrate intentional wrongdoings, they are characterized by wickedness, not weakness. And I'll explain shortly the difference between the two, but by the words itself it's clear. Wickedness to some extent means that they delight in hurting others. They delight in seeking pleasures, whatever be the costs. So Krishna also talks about this, anyayen artha sanchayan. So he says, everybody at one level has karma. but kamam ashritya dushpuram, insatiable craving that they have. They become kama krodha parayanaha. Their life is centered around how can I fulfill my desires. And if anybody has obstructed me in fulfilling my desires, how can I destroy them? And for this, anyayen, they don't hesitate to do unjust things, to do illegal, immoral, horrible things. Krishna talks about his mentality in the 16th chapter. He says, Idamadhyamaya labdham imam prapse manoratham. First he says that such people have they are very covetous, they are very greedy. You may say there are so many people who are greedy. That is okay. But the way Krishna talks about such people, those people who have wickedness, see, first, we could say everybody has greed. But there are some people who are dedicated to greed. And not only are they dedicated to greed, say, that means I want money and I want money at all costs. Okay, what does all costs mean? Maybe somebody does something illegal. Okay, even if somebody does something illegal, that's bad. But even among illegal, there are various degrees. No, okay, I may do something which cheats some people, but I'm not going to intentionally wound someone or kill someone. But here Krishna talks about their greed, basically, whether it is lust or greed or their craving, it just knows no boundaries. In fact, he says, Asaumaya hatah shatrur hanishye chaparanapi. This enemy I have killed and that enemy I will kill. And there's no regret. They think their attitude is just see how clever I am, that I am able to do this, that. Ishvaro hamaham bhogi siddho aham balwan sukhi. That this is, they delight in violating boundaries. They think that shows their cleverness, that shows their smartness. So, when such people are there, forgiveness is a virtue when there is a weakness. A person, because of some weakness, committed a mistake, we should forgive them. But when there is wickedness, when a person repeatedly does something and delights in doing that thing, at least at that time, maybe after that they put a pretense of apologizing or whatever, then if forgiveness in the face of wickedness is actually foolishness. Why foolishness? Because, say, suppose some terrorists are shooting innocent people and then they run out of guns. And the police is appointed. And the police say, oh, the police can shoot them down, the police can arrest them. Say, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Please let me go. And the police lowers their gun, and they find out some knife and just pierce the heart of the police. Just waiting for some opportunity to get back at this people, to continue to act out on their wickedness. So now, generally speaking, it is very easy for us to think that the people whom we dislike are wicked people. But it is not that simple. Now we may say that, okay, how do we determine is somebody, when they are doing something wrong, that wrong is due to wickedness? Now, what do you think? If somebody is wicked, you would not normally, now, unfortunately, the way language has turned now, nowadays, especially among teenagers, wicked has become a good word. Isn't it? That's a wicked party. So I'm not using wickedness in that sense. But in the cruel, heartless, horribly mean, I'm using that sense. So if we consider that somebody is wicked, or we want to make the judgment that this person needs to be punished because they are wicked. So how could we know that they are wicked? Sorry? Who is that? Repeats the wrongdoing. I think that's a very wicked judgment. I mean, that's definitely one characteristic. But isn't it true that we all succumb to the same wrongs again and again? At least I do. So, I hope I'm not wicked. So, yes. So, we'll come back to this point. But repeated wrongdoing, that could definitely be one characteristic. But can we necessarily say that everybody who's a repeat wrongdoer is wicked? It raises some questions. If you say if repeat wrongdoer is not wicked, then who is wicked? Isn't it? And how do we decide? Yes, Sundaran Prabhu? You have some thoughts? Yeah.
Just wanted to add to the conversation, Prabhu, that yes, repeated wrongdoings, whenever there is regret and there is there is one tries to reform, but sometimes out of weakness one is not able to do it. When that is there, then it's not wicked.
Okay, yes, that is a very good point. Thank you. You stole the content of my remaining class now. Okay. Yes. Let's see. So I would like to bring in a third category over here. I'll call this as conditional wrongdoing. Now, conditional means not based on conditions, it's based on conditionings. So, that is, now in this case, what happens is, there is regret, but there is no reform. Means a person earnestly says, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do this again. But still, they keep doing it again. Now, when we say conditional wrongdoing, there is a little problem in that. Because conditionings are involved in all wrongdoings, isn't it? Even a wicked person is wicked because of their conditionings. Even a circumstantial wrongdoer must be having some conditionings. Otherwise, they won't do something wrong, isn't it? Say somebody just passes by a bar and gets drunk, or somebody does something which is wrong, then there must be something inside. Otherwise, that for many people, some thoughts themselves may not come in their mind at all, that I'll do something like this. So conditionings are involved in all wrongdoings. If we go back to this image, in one sense, if we consider the conditionings are present in the subtle body. So conditionings are involved, whether it is a circumstantial wrongdoing, whether it is intentional wrongdoing, or whether it is a conditional wrongdoing. But the difference is that when it is a circumstantial wrongdoing, the person is fighting against the conditionings. When it is an intentional wrongdoing, the person is fighting for the conditionings. That's why kama krodha parayanaha. That person thinks that doing whatever is required for fulfilling my desire, my anger, my greed, my craving, that's what I'm meant to do. So that makes a big, big difference. So we all have conditionings. Now, they are present in everyone. But then, what is the attitude toward the conditionings? So we could be fighting against them. We could be fighting for them. So, or we could be going to both parties again and again. Sometimes we are fighting against them, and sometimes we are fighting for them. So essentially, if somebody is fighting against them, this is largely circumstantial. When somebody is fighting for them, it is intentional. Now, in general, when I am doing this classification, it's important to understand that any system of classification is a tool. It's a conceptual tool to make sense of a reality that is much more complex. So, if we consider the points which broadly I made, with intentional wrongdoing, as I mentioned, Krishna talks about this from 16.10 to 16.15. He talks about kamam ashrita dushpuram to how ityajnana vimohitaha. They're demoniac people. Now Krishna talks about circumstantial wrongdoing in 9.30 and 31. Apichet suduracharo bhajate mamananya bhak. So sadhureva samantavya. Krishna says they're still well situated. So now when a person has done something wrong in real life, it is not easy to determine whether it is intentional, whether it is circumstantial, whether it is conditional, or whether it is conditional. What can happen also is that the same wrong, initially it may start as circumstantial, but eventually it may go down to intentional. So while this is a 3 distinct categories, but it's any conceptual tool is like a map. Now on a map, it's very neatly you can have this is America, this is Canada. But if you go on the border, there's no need border everywhere. Isn't it? If there is a river, okay, that river is the border. But what does that mean? Half of the river belongs to America, half of the river belongs to Canada. Is there a boundary in the middle of the river? No. So boundaries are often fuzzy. But still conceptual tools like conceptual analysis, it helps us to get a broad understanding of the territory. In real life, we have to always have a nuanced approach. So let's consider here the example of Ajamil. Now, how many of you know the story of Ajamil? Okay. So for those of you who don't know, just quickly, this is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, where Ajamil was a son of a very cultured person. He was born in a very well-to-do, very principled family. He grew up to be also a very virtuous person. But once when he was going out to run an errand for his father, to get some firewood for him, for his sacrifice, he saw a man and a woman in a very compromising position. And that woman was seducing the man was getting seduced. And he saw that, he got extremely agitated. And then he just couldn't give up that desire. So, and then the subsequent story describes how there's a disastrous degeneration. So now, was Ajamil's wrong, was it circumstantial? Yes, in the beginning, it was circumstantial. Because when he didn't go out to look for something like that. So when he saw that, okay, that happened. Now we could even say that when he left from there, but those thoughts kept going on in his mind. There's no turn off button for our mind. So those thoughts kept going on. We could even give just the sight. Sight could be said to be circumstantial. Now sometimes the desires can become very strong, and even he felt that I have to be with that woman, and then he went to her, and he did whatever was done over there. That we could give the benefit of the doubt. Okay, maybe sometimes desires become too strong, but eventually, so when he came back, and he decided to throw out his entire family. He abandoned his parents, he rejected his chaste wife. Now, can this be called circumstantial? No, all of us, circumstances may trigger desires within us. Generally, whenever cravings come, if you consider, say, a graph of craving versus time. So quite often how it happens is, the craving may shoot up. But it never happens that the cravings may come intermittently, they may be very strong. But it never happens that the craving stays at a peak all the time. It comes and goes. So there are times when the craving does decrease. And what do we do at that time? So when he decided to abandon his family, he clearly knew what he was doing. Other people would have told him in that family, what are you doing? He was a virtuous person who was earning an honorable livelihood, and he just gave it all up. He not only called that woman to be with her, with her for all the time. Then he started using dishonorable means for living. He started robbing, he started plundering people. So there is a time, so when the circumstantial becomes intentional. So when, for example, when he abandons his family, abandons, you could say, his duties, his family duties, his social or professional duties, that is the time we can say clearly it's become intentional. So basically, the same wrong can go down from one level to another level over time. Now, when there is conditional wrongdoing, we may say that, okay, the same person keeps doing the same thing again and again. Generally, when the conditional wrongdoing is there, if a person is earnestly fighting against it, so that what happens is sometimes, the Krishna says that indriyani mano buddhirasya adhisthana muchyate, that the craving, the destructive, self-destructive cravings that are there within us, they are present in our senses, in our mind, and in our intelligence also. So sometimes even our intelligence can get corrupted, and then we can do something wrong, something's wrong. But after some time, the intelligence recovers. Hey, I should not be doing this. Then we try to give it up. So bhoga tyaga. Sometimes we may go in that oscillation kind of thing. Now here, we could say in this graph, the conditional wrongdoing, the example for this could be, say, most of us. We may fall in this category. We all have, some of us may have craving against greed, some of us may have jealousy. I was at one place and I was talking with one devotee, and he was complaining enormously about another devotee. So then I said to him, Prabhu, with all due respect, whenever somebody says with all due respect, that means what is going to be spoken after that is not going to be very respectful. So I told him, with all due respect, you seem to be jealous of him. He said, no, of course not. I'm not jealous. I'm just extremely unhappy that good things are happening to him and they are not happening to me. And then when he spoke, his mouth fell open. Oh, yeah, that's what jealousy. That's when he realized it. So the thing is that we all have our struggles. And when we have these struggles, when there's this conditional wrongdoing, so how do we deal with that? Krishna broadly refers to it in 523. When he says, learn to tolerate it. Now, tolerate means tolerance can be at many different levels. Tolerance means it comes internally and we don't let it come out externally. The desires come within us, but they don't go out. Sometimes desires may come out, we may act on them, but that action is within boundaries. So, Shaknoti haivaya sodhum prakshari vimokshana, Krishna says. That sodhum, tolerance. Basically, when we talk about this, Krishna says this craving is present in the intelligence, in the mind, in the senses. Now, beyond this is the soul. And we could say this is the outer world, where there may be some sense objects, some objects that trigger us. So when we talk about tolerance, so tolerance means that sometimes, now if you can, to keep this simple, you can go to more complicated, but let's keep it simple, that if you put this is internal, senses are more or less interacting with the outer world. Okay? So tolerance could be at various levels. Tolerance means just the thoughts come and that's all. Everybody will get, from just because we are embodied being, some thoughts may come, some desires may come, some emotions may come, and they stay. Now we don't have to get too worked up or agitated about it, because to some extent it's just biological, it's just psychological. The body and mind are machines, and because of that, Krishna says, tolerate it. Don't get very worked up about it. So that if what is inside, let it stay inside, it will go away from there. If you're not dwelling on it, if you're not building on it, it'll go away. Now sometimes it may come, not just the thoughts come, from the thoughts, desires come. From desires, then there are intentions. Somebody tries to do something. Now, at that time, okay, I plan to do something, but maybe something happens and then, I should not be doing this. And we abandon it. Now, in one sense, a person is going closer to the danger, but there's no need to beat oneself up too much. I'll talk about what needs to be done about it. But tolerance is at multiple level. There is actions sometimes, but actions within boundaries. So, for example, we may decide I want to be very regulated in my eating. Now we may decide, okay, I'll eat only this kind of food. I'll never eat that kind of food. Now we may go beyond certain boundaries. We decide I won't eat something, and then we eat not only eat that, we eat that as if Bakasur has entered into our body or something like that. Okay, but even then, generally speaking, if somebody is practicing bhakti, they may get the urge to eat food and they may eat a lot, but they're not going to eat meat. They're not going to eat non-vegetarian food. That boundary is there. So there may be actions, but actions within boundaries. So then also, okay, Krishna says that's okay. But what Krishna says, dharma aviruddho bhuteshu kamosmi. So now that can specifically refer to something. It can generically also refer. Kama refers to desire. Dharma refers to moral or ethical boundaries. So as long as the desire remains within certain boundaries, Krishna says that's not necessarily wrong. But then where it's action which goes beyond moral boundaries, that is when it becomes, so these are, you could say, lesser and lesser levels of tolerance. Here it becomes intolerable. Intolerable means there's some urgent action is required to correct this. So, not everybody can practice the same level of tolerance. Different people, based on their particular situations, their particular circumstances, their particular conditionings in the past, what they can tolerate may be different. So, for example, fasting. Somebody may be able to fast without water. Some people hold on to, when they make a determination to fast, they hold fast onto their determination to fast. Some other people give up their determination to fast. Just lose their determination. So it happens. Okay, then whatever level one can fast, that's okay. But there are different levels of boundaries also. Krishna talks about tolerance. That's important. But tolerance alone is not the solution. No, Krishna, if you see, 523 is tolerance, but 524 is, immediately after that, Krishna says, Yo antah sukho antararama satantar jyotirevaya. We cannot just be fighting, no, I won't do this. We need to turn inwards, find higher happiness. So that's what the last part I'll talk about now. When somebody is at the level of, say, conditional wrongdoings, and somebody is, say, sometimes relapsing into wrongs, then sometimes coming back and abstaining from it, and again relapsing. So, at that time, for their protection, if you go back over here, two things are required. There is boundaries and bonds. They need to have healthy boundaries. Krishna talks about this in 341. 340. Tasmat tvam indriyanyadav niyamya bharatarshava. 340. And then, evam buddhe param buddhva. He talks about this in 343. Let me explain what this means, about what boundaries and bonds mean. So, every one of us, there are conditionings inside us. And we can't wish away those conditionings. They will take their own time to go away. But those conditionings can be triggered by externals. And While the internal conditionings to remove them, we are working on that. That is gradual. But what we can immediately do is try to stay away from the triggers. So if suppose somebody is an alcoholic and they are trying to recover from alcoholism, sometimes the mind and the intelligence get so distorted. I suppose one person who's an alcoholic, who was drinking a lot of alcohol, told his friend, yesterday I read a very, very serious article about how harmful alcohol is. It spurred me to immediate action. Now his friend had been trying for a long time to get him to give up alcohol. He says, wonderful. What action did you take? He says, I immediately stopped reading the article. Now, sometimes the conditionings will be so strong that anything that works against the conditioning, we just don't want to do that. But generally speaking, if somebody is serious about, we may say, I stopped reading the article, we may like, it's ridiculous. But when we stop hearing classes, when we start reading Shastra, stop hearing, that's what we essentially are doing, That which will strengthen us, that which will remind us of the importance of fighting against our conditioning, we just neglect that. But suppose, say somebody is trying to recover from alcoholism, and their house is right next to a bar. Now, some people have a house next to a bar, some people have a bar inside their house. And they may say, I am recovering from this. And this is not for me. Only when guests come, I want something for them. Well, either way, if there is a bar next to their house or in their house, what is going to happen is there will be no bar for them to go to the bar. There will be no barrier. The urge comes. Sometimes when the urge comes, I remember the urge I talked about. Suddenly, we all have urges. So these urges. Okay, what happened here? Okay, I went all the way up. So we all have these urges within us. And sometimes these urges have surges. And the surges come, even the best of us may succumb. So, but the good thing for us is, those surges don't last for very long. So, if during those surges, the objects that will gratify us are not so easily accessible, then what will happen is, the surges will go away after some time. That's why boundaries, they don't remove the urges from within. But when there are those moments of weakness, then if there are boundaries, if there is some way when we have kept a distance between us and the objects, then we can protect ourselves. So now for every individual, what will be the boundaries that they need? There are certain standard boundaries which are given in the sacred texts. But it is important for each one of us to look at what are my weaknesses. And then, based on that, we may have to decide boundaries. Now, if say somebody has a tendency to eat a lot of sweets, then maybe they should not be in charge of Mahaprasad. Isn't it? So, it's like that every one of us has to find out, even when we are doing service. Even when we are doing service, one devotee asked me this question, what was Ajamil's mistake? Ajamil was going out for service and that time he saw something. Well, yes, his intentions were good. But good intentions are no substitute for good judgment. Good intentions are important, but each one of us has to exercise judgment. So, if, say, we are taking up a service which is exposing us a lot to the triggers that we are vulnerable to, then maybe not now. We can do that service, but we will do that service later. So now, boundaries basically means, if we consider Krishna, so what I'm going to depict now is based on 341 to 43. So Krishna says, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhe yo buddhe paratastu saha. So he says that there are sense objects which are the outside world. Then there are the senses. Then there is the mind. Then there's the intelligence. So this is a hierarchy, he says. Now he says our conditionings are present in all these. Now above this is the soul. The soul itself is never conditioned. When we say somebody is a conditioned soul, that means what is around the soul is conditioned. So this whole thing is the conditioned soul. So basically, what Krishna is telling here is that there will be this downward pull. It's almost like the gravity of attachments. So gravity is a downward pull. Just like now I'm holding this phone. Now if I let it go, the phone, I may not want it to fall. But if I just let it go, there is gravity that will make it fall. So like that, if we leave our senses loose, they will naturally go toward the object of our attachments. In fact, that is an easy way. Our senses, our mind will naturally go toward the object of our attachments. In fact, that is an easy way to know what our attachments are. What is the way? What does our mind do when it has nothing to do? What do we think of when we have nothing to think of? Like when I'm nothing holding up this phone, where does this phone go? That's where the gravity is. So like that, we can all understand our attachments by this. So this gravity is always going to be present. So what Krishna says is, Tasmat Tvam Indriyanya Adau. This is where boundaries come in. So if, for example, here there is rocky ground, and if it falls on it, the phone may crack. Now I may decide, even if it's going to fall, let there be some soft landing over here. So if it falls, it won't hurt itself. So each one of us needs to create those boundaries. So this is for somebody who has conditioning, which is practically all of us. Now, what are the boundaries that will best protect us? That is something everyone has to take responsibility to decide that. And one key principle is, the same boundaries may not work for everyone, because everybody has different degrees of conditionings. And the boundaries should be such that they protect us, but at the same time, they don't feel suffocating. They don't feel, for somebody, fasting nirjal might be very easy. For somebody else, they will say that, fasting nirjal, next lifetime. Like that, I can't do it. It's impossible for them. It's easier to climb the Himalayas than to fast nirjal. So, okay, then what? If you have to fast, what can you do? But the principle of boundaries is important. The specific may be negotiable based on individual situation. But everyone needs boundaries. However, as I said, boundaries alone are not enough. What Krishna also talks about is, so 341 is what he talks about. Tasmat Tvam Indriyanyadav Niyamya Bharatarshava. That's why he talks about boundaries. But the next thing is equally, if not more important. He says that there have to be, Evam buddhe param buddhva samsthabhyatmanam atmanaha. That one has to situate oneself on the spiritual platform. So, let me explain this. What it means is, at one level he says, with our intelligence, we link ourselves to the spiritual level. So, our buddhi, it can be nourished by studying scripture. And we try to hold ourselves upward. Like somebody is being pulled down by gravity, if they hold something up. They hold up, then they will not go down. Now, this is the general principle of spirituality. But what Bhakti Yoga tells us is, there's something more we can do. Above this is Krishna, is Bhagavan, is Paramatma. So ultimately for us, what we want is there is this bond between the soul and the super soul. This is prema. Jiva Goswami calls this in Sandarbhas as Preeti. He says once there is Preeti, then there is no need for Buddhi. Not that Buddhi is not there, but once there is attraction to Krishna, then there is no need for the intelligence to hold oneself up. It's like, say, a planet, if a satellite is trying to come out of the Earth's orbit. Then when it's trying to come out of the Earth's orbit, then it is, or Earth's gravity circle, then the gravity is constantly pulling it down, constantly pulling it down. But it is here, and say this object is trying to come out from here. Now there will constantly be the gravity pull is there. But say there is another much bigger object. Say there's a comet passing by. And say this comes in the gravity pull of that object. Then what will happen is, this gravity pull will take it upwards. So bhakti is not just about getting ourselves out of the gravity pull of this material world. It is also about mai asakta manaha. It is about placing ourselves in the gravity pull of Krishna. And when that happens, when we get firmly placed in that gravity pull, then we go beyond temptation. That is the time when we become so absorbed in Krishna that there is kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yadachetasam. Krishna in the same sequence, 523 is talking about tolerance. But later on, 525, 526, 27, he goes forward, he says, not just tolerating it, vimuktanam, one becomes completely free. So for most of us, right now, for a significant amount of time, we are in the gravity pull of the material world. Sometimes we go into the gravity pull of Krishna. So once a devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, sometimes I fall into Maya. Prabhupada said, sometimes you are in Krishna, most of the time you fall into Maya. He said, so basically it is the gravity pull of Krishna that holds us up. So it is important. So the bonds we are talking about, the bond, at one level the bond can be through buddhi. That with our intelligence we understand, this is what is important. But bhakti is so wonderful that, so with our buddhi, say for example, we do swadhyaya, we do shastra study. That reinforces our bond. Not in bhakti, the bond is not just with the soul. It is not just, for example, aham brahmasmi. That bond goes upward. That bond goes to Krishna. But then there is also a bond through the mind that happens. So one of the key principles in bhakti is smaranam. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu. So remember Krishna constantly. The more we are remembering Krishna, what is happening is that just the remembrance of Krishna starts giving us peace, starts giving us joy. And then gradually we get pulled into the remembrance of Krishna. Now beyond that, bhakti is so wonderful that even our senses can be engaged to form that bond with Krishna. So the seva can be direct when we come and worship the deities, we dress the deities, we bathe the deities. Or it can be indirect when we are distributing books, when we are cleaning the temple, or even when we are taking care of our family, we have made our home into a temple. So basically, every one of us needs to build these upward bonds. And to the extent we have these bonds and boundaries, to that extent, we will be able to rise from the level of, say, conditional wrongdoing, only sometimes circumstantial, and then we'll go beyond all wrongdoing. So it is a gradual process. And these bonds that we are trying to establish, the principle in this is that the bonds are voluntary. It is we who have to choose to establish the bonds. Now somebody else can, like the gravity, I was giving the example of gravity. So gravity is just mechanical. Now if if an object comes in the gravity pull of some bigger object, it'll just get naturally pulled up. But we are conscious beings. We can come to the temple, but we may be looking towards everything else other than Krishna in the temple also. Isn't it? Now, some people come in the association of devotees, but their purpose in association is to gossip. This person did this, and this happened over there, and that happened over there, that happened over there. So they may be in the gravity pull of Krishna, but they will not experience that gravity pull. Because this depends on our intention, our desire. It's our heart has to be open to go towards Krishna. So that's why even when we are practicing these bonds, it's vital that we need to associate with devotees who have that strong bond to Krishna. So we don't have time to go into that, but we could say, if you take this outward, beyond in the outer world, here there are devotees also. Here there are people who are devotees. And what happens is, when we bond with them, that bond also helps us connect with Krishna. And in fact, this may well be the most important principle. It is by their association that by bonding strongly with devotees, we feel inspired to form bonds with our senses, with our mind, with our intelligence, in a way that connects us with Krishna. But the potency of bhakti is such that Kshipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati. Krishna says, everybody can and will become purified. He says, apichetasi papebhya sarvebhya papakrittamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrjinam santarishyasi. That everyone can, by ascending to the boat of transcendental knowledge, Krishna says, cross over the ocean of distress, the ocean of conditionings. That is the assurance that Krishna gives us. So we may have many strong conditionings, but Krishna is stronger than our conditionings. And that's why we want to be Krishna conscious. Now we want to be aware of our wrongdoings, but we don't want to be conscious too much of our wrongdoings. We want to be conscious of Krishna. Even if we do something wrong, rather than beating ourselves up, I did something wrong. Yes, we have to be aware of that. But after that, focus on Krishna. Krishna, I want to connect with you again. And the more we connect with Krishna, the more we will rise beyond whatever conditionings we have. And therein rise both our greatest hope and our greatest strength. Our greatest hope is that Krishna has guaranteed that we will be purified. And our greatest strength is that we all have the opportunity to place ourselves in the gravity pull of Krishna. In one sense, not our strength, it is Srila Prabhupada has provided us the opportunity. But that opportunity is there for all of us. So in Bhakti, we have the greatest hope. Everybody has some conditioning that they struggle with. But we have two great things. The greatest hope is that Krishna's promise is there, that everybody can be purified. And the greatest strength is this: Krishna, through his devotees like Srila Prabhupada, has given us space where his gravity pull exists abundantly. So we can place ourselves in that gravity pull, and each one of us can thereby become purified. So I'll summarize what I discussed today. I discussed broadly about 3 kinds of wrongdoings, and how basically the topic was, when do a person's actions, especially wrong actions, do they reflect a bad character? Do they or do not? That's what we discussed. So the first thing we discussed about 3 kinds of wrongdoings. Does anyone remember 3 kinds? Which were they? Circumstantial, conditional, intentional. Thank you. So now we discussed this one table in terms of the problem and one table in terms of solution. We'll discuss this. So in circumstantial wrongdoing, what happens is, if you consider regret and reform. Circumstantial, both are there. In conditional, regret is there but no reform. In intentional, there's no regret, there's no reform. So in this case, just forgive and forget. In this case, the person has to be punished or disciplined in some way. And in between, there are boundaries and bonds. And what do these boundaries and bonds mean? In that connection, we discussed this Gita 349 verse. I won't go into the whole verse, but we have the conditioned self. So above us is Krishna. So basically, what we want to do, and here there are the sense objects. So we want to create boundaries that keep us away from the sense objects. And then we want to have bonds that connect us with Krishna. So the bonds can be established at various levels, with the buddhi, with the mana, with the indriya. So when we establish these boundaries, then what will happen is each one of us can become elevated and eventually liberated. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Thank you. So, are there any questions or comments? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very, very wonderful class. Prabhu, my question is, when you mention about intentional wrongdoing, and it's a small thing if somebody does intentional wrongdoing and they don't have regret or reform. So in that situation, what is the way to punish, and how do we address them? It's a small thing, not like a big thing, but still intentional, and it hurts sometimes that why that person doesn't have regret and keep on want to have relationship just like normal, without any kind of regret or reform, and it hurts us. But at the same time, I don't know what is the way to punish and what should we do.
See, now punishment is generally the duty of Kshatriyas or those who have authority position. So for example, parents can discipline their children. Any authority figure has a particular way of disciplining or punishing. So basically, now how exactly, specifically it will be done, that depends. Now if it's a person, say if we don't have a position of authority over that person, then the only thing we can do is, if they are not ready to function within boundaries, then we have to create boundaries so that they won't hurt us anymore. So boundaries, if they're not voluntary, then they have to be involuntary. They have to be, in one sense, imposed. So now what exact boundaries will there be? So if somebody is speaking repeatedly in a hurtful way, or somebody is acting in a hurtful way, then maybe we have to create a physical distance from them, or at least we create a psychological distance whereby we lower our expectations from them. We understand this person is not going to address my needs for, say, a relationship or a sense of belonging. And then we find out appropriately. So basically, either we are authority that we can punish or discipline, we go to the authority who can punish or discipline, or we ourselves use whatever authority we have to create a boundary. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. So my second question comes, should we address, at least to them, that, this is what you did wrong?
Of course, definitely.
Addressing.
No, definitely we have to, in a respectful but clear way, we need to tell what they are doing and why it is hurting us so much, or why it matters to us. So basically, in any relationship, Krishna says in 12.15, Yasman no dvijate loko, lokan no dvijate chayah. That don't disturb others and don't be disturbed by others. Now, most relationships are such that I'll disturb you and you'll disturb me. That's just a part of life. But the key thing when he says don't disturb others, So if we consider the spectrum of the relationship, in every relationship, say if there's a relationship between A and B, then there are some things which are non-negotiable for, say, A. And then there are certain things which are non-negotiable for B. So every person has certain boundaries. You can get angry, but don't use swear words. You can do, everybody gets angry, but you cannot do these things. So there are certain non-negotiables for everyone. And in between, there are negotiables. So there has to be some, it's not just artificial that don't disturb others and don't be disturbed by others. That doesn't mean that we never have difficult discussions with people. Or we somehow make ourselves completely cold by which whatever others speak, it doesn't affect us. That's not, we can't be human beings and be like that. What it also means at one practical level is, when we are communicating with people, we understand what is non-negotiable for them and we convey what is non-negotiable for us. So when we understand what is non-negotiable for them, then we won't be doing actions that will disturb them. And when they understand what is non-negotiable for us, then they won't do actions that will disturb us. So that kind of communication is vital. Okay?
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
So the first part of the answer was, I was explaining when communication just doesn't work at all. That time we may have to create some boundaries.
Thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions or comments? Yes. Sorry?
I pray to Vishnu every day. How do we see his full form?
How do you see his full form?
I pray to him every day.
Okay, when you come to the temple, you see his full form at one level.
Not in statue form.
Well, that is not different from Krishna, but Krishna is far bigger than us. It's like recently there was a solar eclipse. Now, you can't demand, I want to see the solar eclipse, so come now. Isn't it? These things happen by their own arrangement. So there is a higher plan. When we can pray to Krishna, but the very meaning of praying means it's requesting. Praying is not demanding. And praying is certainly not giving ultimatums. So, manyase edi tat shakyam maya drashtumiti prabho. So we pray to Krishna, and when Krishna is pleased, then he will reveal himself to us. Arjuna says to Krishna, Krishna, if you think it is possible, although Arjuna is a very dear devotee of Krishna, even Arjuna says, Krishna, if you think it is possible, then please show me your universal form. So that you are praying is wonderful. Krishna is listening to every one of your prayers. And in his own time, Krishna will reveal his form to you. Okay? Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mataji. Okay, there's a second mic behind somewhere. You can just give that. You can speak. I'll repeat the question.
So, prema, the prince. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
It's 1 minute. You'll ask the question again. That's fine. No problem. Yeah.
Okay. So, what I heard from you is that prema is the direct and simplest way to connect to Krishna as compared to the reading and the intellectual stuff.
Well, is it the direct and the simplest? Well, it is definitely the direct way to Krishna, connect with Krishna. But that direct way doesn't happen automatically. It is not that we can just, by desiring, suddenly one day love rises in the heart. See, love is also a cultivation. And doing all the other things, like studying scripture, doing seva, remembering Krishna, smarana, all those help in the awakening of that love. So, yes, we all would like to come to that level of prema, but all the other are means to get there. that answer your question? Or what was your question then exactly?
So I thought that is one route which is direct and does not need any, reading of the scriptures and trying to understand them or trying to have conversations about them. That's like the other part.
No, I didn't. That's not what exactly I meant. Say, for example, now if we are practicing spirituality, and say somebody offers us meat. Now we don't have to reason with ourselves to resist the temptation of meat. No, I'm not going to eat it. That means that our consciousness, meat is just one example, and whatever it might be, that when we come to a level where we do not need reasoning to turn away from a particular temptation. That is a state of transcendence. So I was talking that when we have transcended temptation, which happens when we are at the level of prema, at that time we do not need buddhi. But say if somebody asks us, why don't you eat meat? We can give logical reasons. We may say, we may talk about the violence that happens in meat packing industry. We may talk about the environmental costs. We can talk about various things. So buddhi can be used, first of all, for us to come to the level of prema. And even when we are at the level of prema, we can still use buddhi to help others take steps toward that level. But at that level, we don't need buddhi. We don't depend on buddhi. The emphasis of Jiva Goswami over there is that before that, we all absolutely need buddhi. If we think that, okay, whenever I feel like chanting, that's the time I'll chant. Then what will happen is that we will feel like chanting once in a, maybe initially once a week, maybe after that once a month, then after that it will become once a lifetime. So that will not be sustainable. The point was that buddhi is required. And we shouldn't think of all these activities as separate from bhakti. They're all, just like, let's consider the point of love. See, when we love someone, we love them with our heart. But is it that we love them only with our heart? Whatever is in our heart, we express it through our actions. Isn't it? Love means it begins with the heart. The heart is central. But love encompasses our entire being. So we speak sweet words to them. We do things that will please them. We think about what is good for them and then plan accordingly. So so bhakti also, prema at the level of bhakti, it encompasses our entire being. That is at the level of soul that we are directly connected with Krishna. But then we have buddhi, we will use that in Krishna's service. We'll do everything else also, but the purpose is that we want to express our love for Krishna. So basically, we can say that when we are using buddhi and bhakti, or you can say prema. So buddhi can be first used to advance towards prema. We need buddhi as a means. Then we can use buddhi to express our devotion. Then we can use buddhi to share our devotion. So buddhi and the bhakti, when we first use our intelligence to understand why I should practice bhakti, then if I have some devotion, I use my intelligence to express that devotion. And then eventually I share it with others. Okay? Thank you. Yes, any other question? Yes, there. You had a question, no? Can you just take the mic here? Yes, please.
Prabhuji, thank you very much for your lecture. It's been very, very, very enlightening. But my question, going back to Kaikeyi, and that her, it's considered circumstantial, and that and Lord Rama tells Bharata not to be hard on her and not punish her. But I've also read that because of that, nobody ever names their daughter Kaikeyi. That's considered like a punishment. So okay. What do you think of that? Is like that's what I've read.
Okay. See, there are multiple ways of looking at things. Say, at one level, what Kaikeyi did was wrong. It is the Lord's greatness that he did not consider it very seriously. But from a devotee's perspective, it is heartbreaking for devotees to think that the Lord, whom they would like to serve with the best of things, that Lord has to wear tree bark and has to go out and live in the forest and perform austerities. And all that is done because of Kaikeyi. So it is devotionally distressing. So in that sense, we may not demonize the character Kaikeyi, but every character, it evokes certain memories in devotees' hearts. So even devotees or pious people, they may not want to evoke the memory of that particular action. So Kaikeyi has become identified with that action. And that's why that name is not used generally. Okay? That doesn't mean the character is bad, but that just means that the connotations of the character of that particular name are negative, and devotees try to avoid that. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Prabhu. Please speak. It's on.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Your discourse was always as insightful, very creative framework. Couple of questions. Number one, applying your framework to Ajamil, going from circumstantial to intentional. When you look at the end result, he got the liberation. So how does that fit within that framework, or is there an exception clause that applies because it is Krishna's mercy?
So when Ajamil still got liberation, well, Ajamil did reform. See, by the accidental chanting of the holy name, Ajamil was saved from the punishment of the Yamadutas. But after that, he did repent and he did reform. He performed severe austerities at Haridwar. And that's how he got liberated. So there are examples of extraordinary mercy sometimes displayed in the scriptures. So whenever there are, you could say, extreme examples, the extreme examples can be both positive, like Ajamil, by one holy name was saved. But it can also be negative, that just by attachment to Bharat, of Bharat Maharaj to a deer, he fell. Both are in the successive cantos of the Bhagavatam, 5th and 6th, there are extreme examples. What is the purpose of extreme examples? It is not to standardize the extreme. The Parikshit Maharaj is hearing from Shukdev Goswami about this pastime of Ajamil. And he's fasting for 7 days and immersing himself in hearing about Krishna. Now, after hearing about the Ajamil pastime, he doesn't think, why do you have to hear for 7 days? When the Takshak comes, at that time I'll just chant one name of Narayana. It doesn't do that. So the purpose is to emphasize the standard. What that means is that if the Lord is so merciful that by one chanting unintentionally of the holy name, Ajamil got so much benefit, then if we chant regularly, won't we get benefit? We will surely be benefited. So extreme examples have to be understood in context. We look at scripture, always the emphasis is on the standard. That this is the extent of the mercy of the Lord. Then surely that Lord will be merciful to us. Conversely, negative examples also, they have to be seen in that context. This is the extent of how dangerous the temptations of this world can be, attachment can be. That does not mean that we have to live in paranoia, but it just means we have to be cautious. So emphasize the standard, that's the key point. Okay, thank you.
Prabhuji.
At what time do we stop? 5, okay. It's a very polite way of saying stop. Okay.
I can hold my question, no problem. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, yes, yeah, the mic will quickly finish with that.
Okay. Prabhuji, thank you so much for your wonderful talk. There's a 2-part question maybe. Today morning, my son asked me, do we have one life or multiple lives? And when I heard this lecture today, it made me think about the framework that you talked about. what's going on in the world today, it's very difficult to know what's intentional, what's unintentional, who's wrong, who's right. Sometimes the boundaries become blurred. So does the soul get a chance to reform itself in another life, or does it have to happen in this life itself?
Okay, so see, we all have different starting points. Even if you have more than one child, each child is different. Even if you have twins, even if they are identical twins, they are not identical. Now, why they're different? Genetically, they are identical. There is something more to our identity beyond our genes. So that is our spiritual side. The soul goes through many lifetimes. And the soul will reform. But will it happen in this lifetime? Yes. We hope that. We try for that. But some people are not ready for it. So that's why within the broad Vedic tradition, there are two broad means for there is Shastra and there is Shastra. So Shastra provides wisdom. So by appealing to the intelligence of people, by providing them wisdom, by giving them a long-term vision of life, there are some people who will reform by this. And there is also Shastra means weapon. Weapon basically means the rule of law. So there are some people who will be restrained by this. And knowing that if I do something wrong, there will be consequences. So that's not a very high level of avoiding wrongdoing, but at least because of that, they avoid wrongdoing. So Shastra, in terms of the rule of law, is important. And then some people who are, in spite of that, not restrained, then they have to be penalized. They have to be punished. So now, by this, it is the role or responsibility of the leaders of society to use a judicious combination of Shastra and Shastra to maintain order in society. So everybody will be, on one side, be held accountable for their actions, if not now, later, not in this lifetime, future lifetime. And everybody will get an opportunity to reform. Whether they take it in this lifetime or in some future lifetime, that is up to them. We can try to make the higher wisdom accessible to them. It's up to them whether they want to reform or not. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We say if they don't know, if they don't know, then we see that as our responsibility. If they don't care to follow, then that is something which is between them and the Lord. Okay. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Thank you.
It's an honor and privilege to have Chaitanya Charan Prabhu at ISV. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for your wonderful lecture. We request now devotees to put away the mats in the back corner on your right side, and we'll face towards the Lordships, and we'll go into the Aarti, and Vishwapati Prabhu would lead us into that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So much of what I spoke today is from my latest book on the Ramayana, Living
Hare
the Ramayana,
Krishna.
Practical Life Lessons from the Ramayana, and there's a calendar with 365 quotes explaining the wisdom of the Gita through short quotes. If any of you want, it will be available outside. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Everybody please stand up and put back your asans all the way to the back wall and get ready for Gaur Arati. Hare Krishna. Jai Jai Sri Radha Madan Mohan ki, Jai Jai Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki, Lakshmi Nishingadev Bhagavan ki, Prahlad Nishingadev Bhagavan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaura Hari. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jai Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe. Jai Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Gaur, Hari Gaur, Hari Gaur, Nitai Gaur Hari Gaur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Radha Madan Mohan ki, Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki, Lakshmi Nishingadev Bhagavan ki, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtottara Shato Sri Abhay Charan Arabinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtottara Shato Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki, Namajarya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि श्री गौर भक्तवृंद की, श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की, वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की, श्री क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की, मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की, गंगा माई जमुना माई की, तुलसी महारानी की, समवेत भक्त वृंद की, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories, Sisi Guru Gauranga Jayata. Hare Krishna. Yes, Kameshwari. Oh, good, good, good. Now we are going to sing Nishinga prayer. Kameshwari Mataji. everybody is going to say Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, भक्त शिरोमणि प्रहलाद महाराज की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की, निताई गौर प्रेमानंद।
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We welcome you all to the Sunday Feast Festival here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you for taking your time out on a sunny Sunday at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. So we thank you all for joining us. So let's give everyone a big round of applause for joining us tonight. Hare Hare Bol. We also would like to thank our online devotees. So let's give them a big round of applause as well. Hare Hare Bol. Today's discourse and Krishna Katha was brought to us by His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. So let's give him a big round of applause. Okay. Anyone coming here for the first time? Thank you. We have other Mataji here. Thank you. I see a lot of new faces, but they just probably left. So let's welcome them all and let's chant one Mahamantra for everyone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have a couple of sponsors for tonight's feast. And then I would like to announce the upcoming. We have some exciting upcoming events. But before that, we'd like to acknowledge sponsors. We have two sponsors. First one is Ranjana Mataji and Balaji sponsoring on the occasion of Tamil New Year and also for her landing a new job. Is she here? Ranjana Mataji, please come. Is your husband here as well? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Yeah, give a big round of applause. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you for sponsorship. Would you like to say a few words?
I think I have been going to the ISKCON temples since the time I was studying in India. So I was studying in Kharagpur. So I had the opportunity to visit the Mayapur temple, and after I moved to the Silicon Valley, I found this temple. So very happy to have the association ongoing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, and thank you, Prabhu. Would you like to say a few words? Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. And the next sponsor is Pranay Jain and Garima are sponsoring on the occasion of Annaprasanna of their daughter, Dhriti Jain. Is she here? Are they here? Yeah, please come. And she is the granddaughter of Karthik Shikdar Prabhuji and Geeta Shikdar, who is also initiated. Her name is Gopi Janapriya Devi Mataji. Hare Krishna. Please come. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for sponsoring. Is Mataji here? Please come, Mataji. Thank you. We welcome you all here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Today we are celebrating almost 6 months of our daughter. We did her anniversary this morning, and it was beautiful. So I'm really happy to be a part of this and really happy to sponsor this. Just to add a little more detail, our daughter was born 3 months premature. She spent several months in the NICU at Stanford. And my in-laws brought us here at ISKCON almost every weekend while we were going back and forth between the hospital and our home. And I think this place brought us a sense of community, a sense of belongingness, and a sense of calm. And today we are celebrating not just her anniversary, but her completing her journey, coming out, being a perfect baby now, happy and healthy, and wishing her all the best.
Thank you, Prabhu. Mataji, you want to say a few words? Prabhuji? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Shabka.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Would you like to say? Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So what's coming up? As you see, the season is blooming with green leaves. So what does that remind of us all? Ram Navami, the green color, right? The Lord Ram. So the Ram Navami is on Tuesday. So we will have program starting from Mangalarti, which is 4:30 a.m. And the morning program will go until 9 a.m. And then we will have the evening program starting at 5:30 p.m. And it goes till 7:30. We serve prasadam. And, we'll have a nice, beautiful class, Kirtan, and lot of Krishna Katha, Ram Katha. Okay? Hare Krishna. So please do join us on Ram Navami, which is on Tuesday, morning and as well as evening. Hare Krishna. And then we have two very exciting events that's coming up, which happens to be on May 11th. Both the events are on May 11th. The first one is the Little Krishna Kids Festival, which happens annually. This is hosted by Her Grace Ananda Mataji and Balivardhan Prabhu. And that's the flyer there. This is the festival for all the kids. They will have a lot of competitions, talent show, drama, dance, and lot of activities. So please register for this excellent festival. If you have any questions, Ananda Mataji is at the back there. She would be happy to answer any questions you have. Right? Thank you. Hare Krishna. And the next event is also on the May 11th. It is the trip to Bhakti Farms in Caramel Valley. So this is, we are celebrating the first anniversary of, 2 cows. I don't know what the name is. I don't know if you... Okay, Gayatri and Malati. Okay, so we are celebrating the first anniversary of their visiting, coming to the Bhakti Farms. There is a bus that is going from here, and there is only limited seats. I believe 40 or 45. So please reach out to us if you like to register. There is a RSVP link. Please register. And I believe there are only 80 spaces that you can go to that event at Bhakti Farms. So please do RSVP if you are interested. Hare Krishna. Also, I forgot to thank a couple of devotees. Would like to thank His Grace Vishwapati Prabhu for leading an ecstatic arti. Hari Bol. And Her Grace Kameshwari Devi Dasi for leading a Narsimha arti. Hari Bol. And also our broadcast team for broadcasting our, all the program online. There are a lot of devotees joining online. So let's thank His Grace Charunimaya Prabhu for bringing the broadcast team. Hari Bol. All the musicians, especially Balram. So let's give them a big round of applause. Hari 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 Bol. Do we have any announcer for the cooks? No cooks, but prasadam is still there, right? Okay. Okay, Nilachal Chandra Mataji and Hari Sankirtan Prabhu. Okay, it looks like he was here and then he is doing some other service, outside the temple. So we also have another exciting event that is happening on April 27th. It is a the drama on Lord Rama's pastimes, right? We have been hosting this event for last few years now. So there is the event on April 27th. And this time the event is going to happen in Sunnyvale in one of the school's auditorium. So the details will be sent out soon. So please watch out. April 27th, it will be sometime in the afternoon after the morning program. Hare Krishna. If there are no other announcements, we can go to Prasad Sevya prayers.
Sharira Vidyaja Jodendriya Tahekal Jive Pele Vishaya Sagare Tar Madhe Jivayati Lobha Maishu Durmati Take jeta kathina samsare Krishna Vadadoya Gori Vare Jibhaja Shaprasadana Dilohai Shayanamrita Radha Krishna Gunagao Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmane Vaishnave Sarva Punya Padam Rajan Vishwaso Nivijayate Prasade Sarva Dukkhana Manirasyo Bhajayate Prasanna Cheta Soyasu Buddhi Paryada Tushtate Vayopa Bhakta Shakanda Vasalanka Chachita Uchishta Bhojino Dasa Stava Mayam Chakimahi Shushkam Paryushitam Vapi Nitam Vadurdeshata Prapti Matrena Bhoktavyam Natra Kala Vicharana Nadesha Niyamastatra Nakala Niyamastatha Praptamannam Vritam Shishte Bhoktavyam Bhajira Pravi Shri Mahaprasadam Ki Please come take prasadam. Hare Krishna.